Hi guys, I'm EVM and that is a London taxi. It's a range extended electric version of it. It's throwing it down, so this is going to be a very brief intro, but I'm going to take this little taxi thing out. Quick look around the outside because I'm getting wet through. It's, well, it basically looks like a London taxi. And that's as much as I can really think about as to say on that one. If you look at the logo there, kind of looks like a Bentley. So yeah, you can tell people you own a Bentley. And from the back, you'll be able to see this boot. I'm sorry if this is going to be a terrible one. That's where you can stick all these charging cables and whatnot. I doubt you'll be using that for passengers because they've got so much room in the back. And let's face it, it's all about being in the back of one of these things. And I'm literally walking into it. So you've got 3 proper seats in the back there, and you also have a seat there, a seat there, and a seat there. So you've literally got 6 seats and absolutely tons of space for all your gear. I have to say this is an incredibly comfortable place to be. Proper 6-seater as well, with decent room for all 6 people. You can get out of both sides of the cab, and this really does make a difference to your passengers. Security guard over there, of course, so to keep the driver safe. And if you spec it up for another £1,000, you can have heated seats in the rear. I've never been in a taxi with heated seats before. Granted, in North Yorkshire I don't get many taxis, if I'm honest, but this one I'll be more than happy to be in. Right, now let's have a look where the driver is going to sit. I'll go out the other door this time. Raining, 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 raining. Oh, get out of this rain, get out of this rain. Oh. There we go. Built for durability, of course, and you'll probably recognise some of the instrumentation and the steering wheel from Volvo, because the company that owns the London taxi company is Geely, or Geely. They also own Volvo. So we have a really nice display there, and this really awesome kind of touchpad interface. So you can pick your drive modes, pure EV, or everyday use. Depends on what you want to do. Change, get into drive there, reverse, on neutral, turn the engine on, and of course your handbrake. So very simple interface and heated screens, but everything's pretty much done from this thing here. Very easy to use, very responsive. I hate dim-witted touchscreens. Press that button there to go to that. That, I wouldn't pay attention to that. In reality, it's massively more than that. It's just been reset on this particular day. Right, let's go out and see what this thing is like to drive. Well, this is a treat, guys. Well, I would call it a London taxi, but obviously it's just a taxi, and it is in many cities, and it's throwing it down, so apologies for the rain noise, but this is brilliant. It's like a starship display here. Really good. Very smooth to drive. I can see why the taxi driver would pick something like this, because obviously you're going to spend a lot of time sat in this driver's seat as a taxi driver. So you want it to be comfortable, and this is really cosy. Now this will do about 80 odd miles on the battery, but it's effectively got a range extender to give it a range of, I think it's something like 340 miles or something like that. So this should certainly cover anybody's taxi shift. It really should. Apparently the average, in terms of mileage anyway, taxi shift in London area is about 80 odd miles. So you can probably see why they've gone for the 80 odd mile range on the pure battery, I mean. From what I've been told from the people who own these things, the average miles per gallon, because obviously it will use the range extender a fair bit, is about 280 miles per gallon. That's a chunk of fuel saving, is that? That's pretty big. Now if you put your foot down, it's not exactly a hot hatch, but it's fine for a taxi. Wow, it is really throwing it down, so apologies for the audio. Nothing I can do about that. I've never ever been on this side of a taxi before. I'm thinking of just pulling into a town somewhere and pulling up, asking what the people think. But I don't think I'm allowed to do that. Now there is something currently missing out of this particular taxi. The smell of a curry, beer, maybe sick, and of course someone asking you if you've been busy or not. Been busy? Yeah, thanks. As you can imagine, the steering is extremely direct and a very short turning circle. I'll be honest, I'm not going to do what I call a traditional review of this because I can't imagine there are many taxi drivers that subscribe to my channel, but you never know, you never know. Oh, another major puddle. It's a beautiful Yorkshire day today. Every time I get a car, including the previous electric one, the MG, that was throwing it down on that day as well. Bloody hell. Now, it's all about saving money for taxi drivers. The less you spend on fuel, the better, of course. Now, I imagine this does, and again, from speaking to owners of this particular car, I imagine this does it brilliantly. The fuel savings would be extreme, especially if you utilised it properly and made sure that you ended a shift on a flat battery. Uh-oh. Oh! Reverse parking camera. Nice and handy. Really does have a sharp turning circle. Now apparently a traditional taxi, when they sold the diesel versions, was about I think he said it was £43,000 for the the standard diesel, which is no longer sold now. This you're close to £60,000, which obviously is a jump up, but the fuel savings should negate that, I would imagine, relatively quickly in the entire lifetime of this car. And think of how many thousands of miles, hundreds of thousands potentially of miles this will do. Ultimately, this should be a much cheaper car to own than the diesel was back then. And I imagine it will hold its value better as well. And then of course there's the ecological argument, which if you're in London or a city that's banning the diesel engine, you've kind of got to look down this sort of route. And the back is immense. You can barely hear, especially in this rain anyway, but you can barely hear the range extender kick in. It really is very, very quiet. It's not like having a diesel engine clattering up the front or anything like that. So what you done tonight then? Oh good. Just getting in the rhythm of taxiness. Has anybody got a Sun newspaper? I need to kind of whack it on the dashboard. You know, some people think that it rains a lot in Yorkshire, and this is really the exception. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw rain. I feel like I should do that every time I pass another taxi driver. I've no idea why. Now the company that makes this are also making, and this for me is going to be a potential game changer, a van based on the same sort of thing as this. The range extender, the full electric. It's basically going to be this, I guess, but in the shape of a van. That really could change the face of deliveries, because it will have a range of 400 miles. Obviously, we're going to be relying on the range extender for that, or 80 odd miles on electric only. Either way, it's going to be considerably cheaper to run. How much to buy, I guess we'll have to wait and see. When commercial vehicles get into this sort of full electric zone, that's when the tipping point starts for me. It needs cars like this and vans similar to this to come out. Remember when I said that I need to replace a camera because occasionally it corrupts video files? Well, this is a prime example because I've just lost the last 30 seconds of that video. You've not missed anything, so it was basically just thanks for watching sort of thing. But what I would like to hear now in the comments below is from any taxi drivers. Maybe not so much with this particular London taxi itself, because it's obviously a big city sort of taxi. So would you be looking into a full EV taxi, whether it is this London taxi or just a normal car that happens to be a full electric, like a Tesla or a Leaf or whatever? As a tool, as a work tool, as a business thing, have you looked into getting an EV? Does it make sense for you? What are the things that are putting you off if you haven't? There's a couple of taxi drivers that I've spoken to that have like a 30 kilowatt hour Leaf, and they've had to miss out on a couple of fares near the end of the shift because they were just a bit too far away and they'd have had to stop to charge. So although they do save money, there are downsides. So basically, if you're a taxi driver, financially, does it make sense for the London taxi or for just a normal full electric normal car? it was a bit of fun, this one. It's not the sort of car I typically review, but I thought, while I've got the opportunity, why not? Normal service will be resumed whenever I feel like it. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.